This episode is brought to you by Ferrero. Soccer's biggest stage is approaching, and Ferrero is making it easy to go all in. Pick any two Ferrero brands from Kinder Bueno to Ferrero Rocher, and you could win the $1 million grand prize, plus an exciting range of daily and weekly prizes. Don't miss your shot. Official rules apply. Learn more at goallinandwin.com.
Hi, I'm Gina Gershon. You're listening to Holly and Dave on the What Difference Does It Make podcast.
Hello, Holly. Welcome to the What Difference Does It Make podcast.
So excited today, Dave. I'm feeling extra alpha today, which I don't say very often, but I'm feeling it.
Why are you feeling alpha today, Holly?
We have on the podcast Gina Gershon, who has a new book, and it is called AlphaPussy, How I Survived the Valley and Learned to Love My Boobs.
We were attracted to this book because she talks about the valley, the San Fernando Valley. She grew up in the San Fernando Valley just like Holly and myself, and she's a music fan. So it was all those elements that made Gina attractive to us. Not that she's already super attractive, but she's even more attractive now that we know she grew up in the valley. Yeah, so Gina, a wonderful actress and also author of many books. The book did attract our attention, and it was a wonderful read, and we are anxious to talk to her about it. But first, tell us about social media, Holly, please.
Please join us on social media at WDDIM Podcast and on YouTube at What Difference Does It Make Podcast and TikTok, which is included under the umbrella of social media, but we're just letting you know that we're there now, and you will find clips from our interview with Gina Gershon. So please join us for that. You won't be sorry.
I'm very excited because usually we talk to musicians, and it turns out Gina also a musician as well as an actress. So we have many things to talk to her about. The Valley, music, movies. I mean, those are my favorite things to talk about. Let's get into it right now. This is Gina Gershon on the What Difference Does It Make podcast. Hello.
Gina Gershon, our third Jew from the Valley.
Are you the first two?
That's us, yeah.
Oh, hello there. Shalom.
Shalom. Did you go to temple in the valley at all as a child?
Not so much.
Okay.
I was supposed to. I was supposed to be bat mitzvahed, but then I decided I was only doing it for the money. So I told my parents that, and they were like, you don't have to go. And I said, if you paid me this much, it'll be half of what we'll make, like that I'd actually make. And then you'd save money. And they're like, you don't have to be bat mitzvahed. So I stopped.
Quite the negotiator.
Yeah. I thought it was a good deal all around for everyone. But they were like, we don't really care if you do this or not. We weren't very Jewish. I remember lying about my age. We had to say I was like older than I was so I can get in, so we didn't have to wait another whole year, like change my birth date. So I always kind of got like, oh, this is weird. Is this my real birthday or is this my real birthday? Because it was many months before. But I think my mom just wanted me to get into school, you know?
That seemed to be a theme in the book. It actually highlighted when you said, I never lie. Like during the whole book, you're lying. You're like, this is... Even that line is a lie.
I said I don't like to lie.
However, it seemed like, can you do this? Yes, I could do this. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. It was maybe exaggerations or...
Being an actress, that's just being like optimistic. Because ultimately you can do that. I mean, I didn't say, have you been doing this a long time? It's like, can you? It's like, yeah, sure I can. And then you do it and no one's the wiser. You know what I mean? I have to say, I would never say, oh, yeah, I could do that if it was something I really didn't think I could do. Do you know what I mean? Then you're just putting yourself in an awkward situation.
Like drive a race car?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was a little foolish. But you know what? I did it. You know what I mean? And I was watching it. So I kept thinking, how hard could this be? I thought I was like driving by osmosis. I've been around it for months and months. I was just so annoyed because I kept saying, hey, I want to learn. Like, I'm here. And then, of course, they just wanted my picture. Just like, oh, no, be the cute girl in the outfit. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, I could drive and I'll do it. And then all the women were like, yay. And I'm like, oh, my God. It was really fun.
Gina could have been on the Artemis, I think. She probably could. Can you be an astronaut? Yeah, I could be an astronaut. Just put me in there.
I think I could be an astronaut.
I know you could. Yes, of course.
I don't get dizzy. So when you're doing, whatever, the preparation for it, I think I might get claustrophobic if I was in a submarine for long. I think that I probably couldn't do.
That's your weakness. Okay.
The waiting to get out of the capsule once it's landed. might be the hardest part. Never mind the zero gravity.
Yeah, but I think those astronauts on a certain level have to be so zen and they have to be able to control their minds a lot. I'm sure if you land and you're safe, you're just like so thankful you didn't like burn up or anything. Nothing went wrong. You landed safely.
I was delighted when I was reading the book, a lot of movie quotes and name dropping. You started off the book with a Laurie Anderson quote. Why did you come upon that? How does that fit into the book?
Well, I originally wanted a different quote, but then the people were very difficult to approach and get the quote from. It was the exact perfect quote that I wanted. And when I couldn't get that, or everyone was like, just don't even, you're going to end up paying so much money. Laurie's a very good friend of mine. And so I looked through some of her stuff. And when I found that, I said, oh, that says the same sort of vibe. And so she's like, yeah, sure, use it. And I love Laurie, and I liked her kind of starting out the book in a way. It kind of made me feel better. I respect her so much as an artist, and she's been so helpful to me, and I just love her as a person. So why not?
Do you have a Lou Reed story, any chance?
Yeah, no, there aren't any Lou Reed stories in the book.
I know. That's what, when you mentioned that you're friends with Laurie Anderson, I was like, okay, maybe you got.
I knew Lou. Yeah, I knew Lou before Laurie. I met Lou. So Lou and I, he came to see me in Cabaret with our old friend who died sadly, Hal Wilner, who was just the most amazing musician and producer. So he saw me in Cabaret, which I was very nervous about, but he loved it, even though he hates musicals. And he said, this one was pretty good. And we did a project together, and then we just became friends. We started doing Eagle Claw, like weird meditation things. And there's something great about eating food with Lou. He's a typical New Yorker and would really get into like this Chinese food and like what it was. But Laurie was always on tour. And finally she was coming home. He's like, do you want to meet Laurie? You should meet Laurie. I said, yeah, of course I want to meet Laurie. She was kind of my hero. And when I met her, she was just, she's just not human. She's just otherworldly. She's so great. And then after he died, Laurie and I became very close. So she was anytime I'd be like, why am I writing this book? Why does anyone care? She's like, no one really cares. She said, but you write it because you write it. And then of course I did an interview with her and I told her that. She goes, I care. I love the book. Oh no, I didn't mean that. It's great.
So why now? I mean, when you say why the book? Why the book for you?
I never really mean to write books. This is my third one. And really it started off as something completely different during COVID. My book agent, he just said, hey, write me stories, because he really liked the showgirl stories. And I said, I don't really want to do a showgirls book. And he said, listen, we're in lockdown. Just write me something. I just need to be cheered up. So I just started sending him stories, essays of stories that I didn't really tell a lot of the showgirl stories before, but like the Prince story I'd told and like other stories that I thought, well, I might as well just write it down before I forget them, at some point. And then he kept saying, keep going, keep going. And then all of a sudden he's like, great, I'm going to go out with this book. And I just said, no. All of a sudden, then I was kind of getting interested. And I said, there's something else that I want to write. I don't really know what it is. And then little by little, through a bunch of different events, I kind of grabbed onto the whole AlphaPussy idea. When I realized what that was and I told that story, I'm like, oh my God, I could actually tell all those stories that kind of revolve around that. And then a lot of the Valley stories really were just, I didn't know I had so many of those in me. And then they really started percolating. At some point, my publisher is like, are you writing like a coming of age in the Valley? Because you have all stories of the Valley now. I'm like, I know, right? I think I could. And for a second, I was going to do that. And then I don't know how I write things. It just kind of happens organically. And then all of a sudden, I just said, this is what it's about. And these are the stories that I'll hang my hat on. And if they don't match or they don't go, then I'll get rid of them.
Did you get rid of a lot?
Oh, yeah, of course. I got rid of a lot of stories. I mean, I have a lot of great stories, but like if it didn't thematically go with this, I had to be somewhat disciplined. I'm not writing a biography, and the idea of just, it's a memoir of me. For me, I need to have a theme just to follow.
When you were submitting these stories, when you were sending him these stories, did you see the theme immediately or did it?
No. I just started sending him stories. It was just kind of like, at the beginning of COVID, what are you going to do? I was just like writing little essays, I just wanted to write short stories. I'm not really writing, I'm just retelling stories. That's kind of, I think, my writing style, just like telling a story, And it was much more top heavy with just different movies and showgirls especially. And then I just I don't want to write that book right now. And it wasn't that interesting. And it's funny because at some point I thought, wow, by the time the whole idea, maybe it was coming out of the whole Me Too era, or maybe it was coming out of bullies. And you think, wow, the world is really getting mean and there's so many jerks around. And so maybe that's where the whole thing of, because the AlphaPussy really is about standing on your own 2 feet and not, bowing down to like bullies and toxic people and standing on your own 2 feet. But at some point, I thought, wow, by the time this comes out, we're going to be past this moment. We're not going to need to talk about this anymore. This is going to seem really passé. Sadly, that's not the case. We're like in this toxic environment and world with people trying to push you around and telling you what to do. And it's really important time to listen to your instincts and trying to hold on to some sort of moral code, whatever that means for you. So here we are. So it's kind of weirdly timely,
Yeah.
But I was thinking, God, by the time this comes out, no one's going to want to talk about it. We're going to be so far. We're going to have a president. We're going to all be kind to each other, like patriarchy. It'll be great.
I love that attitude. So you do talk a lot about growing up in the Valley, and you talk about being a strong female. You had that. One of the first stories that I loved reading about was your Jew's harp story about how you even got it and who took you to the store or like taught you how to play the Jew's harp. Can you talk a little bit about this caregiver that and the Jew's harp and how that helped you in life?
I went to the store myself. It was like boring in the Valley then. It was kind of not the greatest environment, when I was growing up. There's a lot of shady characters. And maybe, would have been great if my parents were like, oh, we're taking you to art class or here you're doing this. But I was just kind of, it was those days you're just like, be home before 6, and a lot of my friends, the brothers were the dealers of the Valley. So there's a lot of drugs around. So, I think I was just, idle hands, right? I mean, I was in my klepto years. So I would like go and steal things like gum and just like little stupid things. And then just because it was kind of exciting, I guess. I was like also so young. I didn't really understand why it was so bad. I just thought, oh, this is naughty, like to take it. I didn't really think, oh, I'm stealing. Just had a different weight. And when I saw the Jew's harp or the Jaws harp, that it was Snoopy had been playing it on TV, I was like, oh my God, that's the instrument Snoopy plays. That's so cool. I mean, this is how young I was. I took it. I didn't have money. Like, where would I have money? I just thought, oh, great. And then I went home and I tried playing it. My mouth was all bloody, as it is when you're first learning how to play. And then Marie, who had been living with us since I was 2 years old, she was like, child, give me that thing. I've been playing this on the plantation where I grew up. And she played it like no one I've ever heard. So she taught me how to play it. So I just always kept it with me. I'd like whip it out at school in the middle of a test and do it. And like everyone would look around. I'd be like, what's that? It was just fun.
And it led you to, you made a song with Christian McBride. Can you tell us how that came about? What's the story behind that?
Well, I've made several songs with Christian at this point. My uncle, who was a great arranger and composer and musician, he had the LA Symphonic Orchestra. Jack Elliott, he was a jazz guy.
Uncle Jack.
Uncle Jack, yeah. And so at some point I wanted to play the bass. I thought, oh, it'd be cool to be able to sing and play the bass at the same time. I had this weird idea. So I'd just taken like 2 lessons. And then he was doing a show and Christian McBride happened to be playing in it. He was one of the featured artists. And Uncle Jack was always I'm like, ooh, Ray Charles, I want to meet him. He was like, no. A lot of the times he wouldn't let me meet people, but this time he like grabbed me by the hand. He's like, Christian, Gina, this is my niece, Gina, this is Christian. And like Christian, it was like love at first sight. We just became pals instantly. Then throughout the years, we would play, he called it gefilte fish and barbecue. I'd call it Jews in the Blues. Like he played bass and I played the Jew's harp. So whenever I needed him, I'd say, Christian, can you come and play? He's like, yeah. And if he's on stage, he's like, hey, come up and play. He's just the greatest guy of all time. I love him.
The one song I was talking about was the song that you mentioned in the book called Marie, which is on...
Marie. Oh, yeah. That's right. I love musicians because I didn't have a studio. And I remember Christian was in town and I said, listen, I just wrote this song I'm doing on the Jew's harp. I need you to play bass because like, A, he's the best bass player in the world. And B, like, I didn't really know about the bass players, and he said, sure. I remember asking Linda Perry, I said, listen, can I use your studio? Will you record this? This guy's coming in. She didn't know who Christian was. And I'm like, trust me, you're going to want to know who Christian is. So he starts playing. Linda was just like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, dude, he's like the best.
Marie, 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 Marie. When I was 7, I stole me a box that had Snoopy playing on the... I got in trouble, got caught by a cop, but they never took away my... I took that. Put it up to my mouth till it gave me a bloody lip.
Ew.
Marie grabbed it from me. She said, "Child, give me that thing." And then she made it sound like this. Tap, my cough got worse and I'm getting me the chill. You be a good girl now, you go on to the store. You fetch me a big old bottle of NyQuil. Another one?
And then he played the piano, and he plays the piano on that song as well. And he also sang it with me. Like Christian and I, we work really quickly. I mean, he's a jazz musician. He's used to improvising. But when I did my last book, In Search of Cleo, How I Found My Pussy and Lost My Mind, that originally was a show. I was doing the music, and then I kind of added the story along with it. And weirdly enough, I got a book deal from it. That's how that book came about. It was a show that I was singing and telling the story. So I always had music behind me. So when I was going to do the recording of the book, they're like, "You have a day and a half." I'm like, "To do the whole book? Oh, yeah, that's enough time." Which is not enough time. I remember saying, "God, this feels so weird not having sound behind it." And I called Christian. I'm like, "Where are you?" He's like, "I just got into town. I'm going to the studio in about an hour." I'm like, "Can you come here for 1 hour before that?" And we happen to be near each other. He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Bring your bass." And we improvised the whole soundtrack behind, and then we had no time. I'm like, "Okay, in this song, we're going to start off kind of like fun, then it gets mysterious, then it gets kind of scary, then it gets really scary, then it's like run, 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 and then relax." He's like, "Got it." And so he would just play, and I would play with them, and we're like, "Great, next song." So that's how crazy the background music was. But, it's Christian. Like, you could hear him do anything. I just kind of glom onto his brilliance,
You toured after Pray for Rock and Roll, that little band together.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, playing live music is the most fun thing to do. It just is.
This wasn't any band. This is Girls Against Boys, like a really great band that I love seeing.
Yeah. And now Johnny's the bass player of Girls Against Boys, has published this book, AlphaPussy, which is kind of great. When we were on tour, I kept going, "Johnny, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm going to open up a publishing house." I'm like, "Really? Well, we're going out and playing for a little bit, partying after our show before I'd have to go and work the next day." And he was always diligently reading his manuscripts. And he was a really good bass player. I could rely on him. So when I was doing this book, I'm like, Johnny's the guy to do this with, because I really liked working with him. He was fun. We had a lot of fun on that tour.
I'm telling you that going back to the whole Jew thing, a lot of the stories in your book felt like Beschert.
Yeah.
The way things came about, like doing cabaret, the way you told coming to cabaret. Yeah.
I think my whole life has kind of been like that. I think it's really important. Like that's why it's important to stay in like a positive mindset, You have to stay in the flow so that Beschert or whatever's going to happen can happen, like be in that flow. Because whenever I'm not, it doesn't happen. And I think you stop, the magic kind of coming in. Or like, is it your fate? I don't know. But I think the flow will lead you to where you should go. I mean, unless I just rely on that too much and I'm just lazy to make a real plan.
I don't know. It works, right?
Times when it doesn't work, you can't force it,
Yeah.
We just forget about those times.
Yeah, we just forget about those times.
That's right.
But I do think it's important to stay in a very positive and full of gratitude sort of mindset so you don't cut off that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you also do what you're passionate about. Like everyone's doing musicals. They're doing Chorus Line. They're doing Annie, songs from Annie. You decide to do Joni Mitchell's Twisted. And apparently that worked.
It was a musical class. And I guess I didn't realize it was just musical theater. But I was like, "Oh, this is a good song. It's theatrical." So everyone was like, "Why is she playing Joni Mitchell?" I'm like, "I think it's a rad song." I mean, I was definitely still a surfer chick from the Valley, and everyone was doing all these big musicals that I had no idea what they were. And I was like, "All right, well, I'm just going to do this song," which in retrospect, it's insane. It's a really hard song, but I don't know. I just felt like I could sing it.
Yeah, Twisted is about someone who's... People think she's crazy, but she's really, I'm on it, man. I got this. This is mine. I own it. And that's a perfect song for you.
I just love the song, And that actually, I was probably lazy with that too, just because it was something I was singing all the time. And then we had to get a song, and I'm like, well, why should I learn a new song? I know this one. And so I just brought that in.
That's perfect. That's not cheating. That's years of rehearsal. You did that.
At least weeks of session.
Yeah.
This song is fantastic.
And then I also, for poetry class, everyone's got, you said everyone's doing Cummings and T.S. Eliot, and you decide to do, what'd you do instead? Do you remember?
I did Rock and Roll Suicide by David Bowie.
Yeah.
Which is really great lyrics.
Poetic. Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't really read poetry, but I read a lot of lyrics and I thought, this is good poetry. And, it works that way. You know what I mean? Bob Dylan, half the stuff he writes, like he'll say, I wrote a poem. And it's like, no, these are lyrics. Yeah. And they just turn a poem into their lyrics. What's the difference? Good writing's good writing.
Just don't slug your idols, right? Or how'd you end up in a boxing ring with Bob Dylan?
We were sparring. It was perfectly fine, except I did hit him extra hard, and I'd never really hit anyone before.
Why not make it Bob Dylan if you're going to knock someone out?
It wasn't my idea. I just came there, and that was the person my trainer partnered me up with. I mean, we are very good boxing partners because we're the same size. And But at first, it's like, wow, this is weird to hit Bob Dylan. I don't think I can do that. But then I punched him pretty hard.
Oh, God.
Became friends, though. Everyone's kissing his ass. I was kicking his ass.
Yeah.
So I think he appreciated that.
We are talking to the AlphaPussy herself, Gina Gershon. But time has come to take a break, so we will be right back.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
We're back on the What Difference Does It Make podcast with our guest, Gina Gershon.
Yeah, you have no problem saying no to people. You could have been Apollonia in Purple Rain, but you recognize that this is not for you.
Right. Well, I would have been Gina, not Apollonia.
So you he started calling you Gina instead of Gina, and that was like the first red flag?
It wasn't a red flag. It was just Prince made people up in an image he thought fit for what he needed them to be. And listen, I mean, there's no doubt he was a musical genius. I just didn't want to be called Gina. And I also didn't think the movie was for me. And I also don't remember listening to his music was amazing, but I think he played me something like, oh, this is what we're thinking. And I was like, it just wasn't right for me, at the time, which is crazy, but I didn't want that to be my first movie,
Purple Rain is misogynistic. I mean, there's some thrilling moments in that movie, but it's also, he does not treat the women well in that movie.
I mean, it's kind of famously so, right? I mean, her part's not that great. It is misogynistic a little bit. So I just thought, why do I want to come out with this? I thought the dancing and the singing part was fun, but the rest of it was like, didn't feel right.
Going to your relationship with your mom and the way you summed up, and by the way, I really loved the postscript, and I love the way you talked about your mom and her learning about the girls' league. But as a kid, this is like a running theme. What you recognized, what you didn't like, or whatever red flags you saw with Prince, if there were any red flags, or you just feeling like it wasn't for you. Speaking up for yourself, you had done it since you were a kid. And growing up in the 80s, the 70s and 80s, we weren't taught that. It wasn't instinctive for a lot of girls, but somehow, for you, that's a running theme. And I know, I recognize that your mom must have been strong in a lot of ways, but you've also told a couple of other stories, which kind of led us down the path of, well, she was a female growing up in a certain era.
Yeah.
But you were strong from day one. I mean, you were standing up for yourself and didn't think there were differences between you and the boys growing up.
Well, I mean, there's a reason I start the book like in the womb, right? I literally learned, and I was just on my own there. right? Because she didn't even know she was pregnant. And then having an older brother and sister, like I was kind of on my own at home. Like I was alone a lot. And I think it just kind of makes you like have to look out for yourself a little bit, especially when there's so many scummy people around. I think my survival instinct was like kicked into high gear and I just had an antenna. If my brother was in a bad mood, like I didn't want to get tied up and hung upside down from a bar. If I didn't make it out of the Houdini game, I'm like, okay, no, don't, I mean, I had that a lot. Like a lot of kids, I didn't have like alcoholics in my family, but a lot of alcoholic kids, I think, had that. Like have a sense, a spidey sense for trying to stay out of trouble or don't upset the apple cart. I just feel like there was a lot of gross people around. And so I just kind of, I don't know how I had that instinct. Also, I think my dad earlier on is like, hey, if you're not comfortable, you just get up and you leave. And I did have a big brother, who's like, big brothers are like annoying. They like to pin you down and do, kind of do the spit game. And like, you just are like, wow, I don't want any of this. So all that stuff helps, all that stuff being, younger than it helps you later on in your life. So yeah, I don't know.
Recalling my own years growing up in the Valley, I was not strong. I mean, any encounters we had, boys, girls, whatever. And maybe these are just things that are inherent to one's personality. I don't know. And my mom was all about, standing up and, women's rights and whatnot. But somehow I just recall a lot of stories, even early on into my career, like letting people run over me.
Are you like the middle child or something?
No, I'm older.
You're the oldest.
Yes. So I probably tortured my brother like you were tortured by your son. Yeah.
But why do you think you let people run over you?
I don't know. That's why I'm at. That's why I loved reading your stories. And you didn't make a point of saying, well, I'm female. You were just equal to everybody. Like when boys, you were talked about encounters like fights, standing up for your friends. And did you encounter other, like your girlfriends? You had a crew when you were young, still in the Valley.
Yeah, but you know what? My crew was like guys and girls. I mean, I had my little sly foxes, those girls, but at some point they became, teenage girls. And so they weren't so nice. And I was like, I don't really like that. Like I always had guy friends. I mean, I was also like such a tomboy too. I like playing baseball and football. And sometimes guys they were just cooler. They were just easier to hang out with. But I think it's important I think the one point that I try to make in the book, if I make any points at all, but I always encourage, like, if there's that pattern that you find yourself, like letting yourself getting walked all over, you got to figure out where that comes from and really explore that because it'll keep happening until you realize what it is, right?
Working on it now.
That's good. And we all just want to be free at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And those things usually happen, when you're younger. Like I found out stuff happened in the womb. Like, how am I supposed to figure out that?
Yeah.
The woman I work with, she's really great at kind of going into that realm, that I thought really made sense. I always also my dreams would tell me things. I'm like, why am I having these weird anxiety dreams? And then I would figure out what was going on. I'd kind of self-analyze myself and realize, oh, wow, this is what's happening. And I don't know why I knew that or how I knew that, but I just had an instinct for it. But it's so important, because you don't want the same thing. I never wanted to be a victim to my own family dynamics or other dynamics that I didn't even know where they were coming from. Sometimes it's like in the DNA. So you have to really figure out what's yours and what's theirs. That's, I think I talk about owning your own shadow. That's a good book, right? Because sometimes we take on our family's shadows or things, and it's not even our stuff that we're dealing with. So you have to really figure out what's yours and what's theirs, We all need to. We all have stuff,
I didn't mean for this to be therapy for me.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'm learning more about Holly every day, so that's good.
Oh, Dave, you have your own stuff too, believe me.
Oh, I know. We all do. We all do. That's a whole other podcast episode. We'll get you on our other podcast. You did have some great male mentors that helped you out. Especially, I loved just your first movie, and you had Martin Landau convinced you this is a good move for you. You need to get this experience. You need to get into Roger Corman, who makes B movies. You weren't thrilled about it, but
it's all about the adventure. It's the Philippines. It'll be an adventure. And you know what? He was totally right. And I'm thinking, God, if Martin can do this, I could do this. I mean, the movie was a piece of shit, but it was really an interesting adventure at the end of the day. He was not wrong about that. As he said also, he goes, the worst experiences or worst movies, you sometimes learn the most. He was right about that as well.
You got to make that first step eventually, right? And so This was a good one.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it'd be nicer if it was like an amazing project with an amazing, directors and you could really do great work. Instead, it was like yet another kind of survival-like situation, of like, oh my God. It's like, all right, how are we going to get that out of here alive sort of feeling.
But how many actors have a great first film? Like this was the best experience ever. It's really rare, right?
The really lucky ones.
Yeah. But then where do you go from there? You're at the top and then, it's only the rest of your movies are going to be crap or, it's never going to be that amazing experience.
Everyone's different.
Yeah,
Everyone has their own different path, And like, I think at the end of the day, the movies and all those things, they're just like another way to figure out your own stuff. You know what I mean? There's reasons that we take certain things and like, I just like looking at the bigger picture. I mean, maybe now that I'm older, I'm looking at the bigger picture. But like, why was that important? Where did that lead me in my own personal journey? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dave knows I love like the family stuff, but I have to ask you because I love the Curb Your Enthusiasm. That character is so great. But you said Rick Rubin is the one that directed. You said you have to do this.
Hall of Fame inductee, Rick Rubin.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, it was just announced that he's going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's amazing. No, I just had a lot of stuff going on that week, and I happened to be with Rick. We were very good friends then, and I think I was on the phone going, "I can't do this," and I said, I told him the whole situation, and I'd never seen Curb, and he just said, "Listen, if there's one thing you do all year, that's what you should do." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Just make it work." I was like, "Okay," and I'm so glad I did. He was right. Of course. But I hadn't seen Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm sure if I had seen it, I would have been like, oh, yeah, I got to make this work. As soon as I really watched it and then I kind of took part in it, I was just like, oh, yeah, this is great. So he was right. Who else got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, wait, I have it in my phone. Like Phil Collins, Billy Idol, Iron Maiden, Joy Division, New Order, Oasis, Sade, Luther Vandross, and Wu-Tang Clan.
Wow, that's some eclectic group.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is a good group. Those are the performers, and then others are, including Rick Rubin, are the influencers and he got in. So that's
Wu-Tang Clan, that's cool.
Yeah, super. I mean, Wu-Tang Clan's for the children, right?
I just saw Oasis their last tour, and I had never seen them before. They were in London at Wembley Stadium.
Holly was there as well. Did you see? Did you see Gina there?
See the one were you at the London shows? All the bros. It was such a bro show. Everyone was like,
it really was.
Other guys are like high-fiving each other. It was like really a bro love fest.
It was a Taylor Swift moment for the bros.
For the bros. It really was.
It was so, but it was to see bros warm and fuzzy like that. Everybody it was really a unique experience. Yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
Yeah. It's so interesting to see him sing because he just does da, 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 da. Like he just doesn't move at all. Maybe he does that with his arm.
There's nothing. It's just hands behind the back.
Like you see him, they're really like a bar band almost, just physically.
That's all you need. Yeah.
But that takes a lot of confidence just to be able to like, great, I don't have to perform it. I'm just going to sing the way I sing and I don't have to move or be a typical front man,
Yeah, fortunately, Liam has oodles of confidence. I don't think he has any
shortage.
I don't think he has any shortage of confidence in everything he does. That's his persona. He's the alpha pussy for men, I guess.
He's very alpha pussy. He's like, this is how I sing, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to like kill it. He sounded great.
Yeah.
The whole band sounded really good. It was fun.
Thank you so much. Thanks for helping out, Holly.
So much.
Thanks for helping push the book.
Oh, of course.
Totally our pleasure. We loved it.
I'm so glad. That makes me happy. All right. Take care, guys.
You too.
Thanks, Gina.
Thank
you
you
too.
Appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, Holly. As I've told you previously, do not Google AlphaPussy and expect to see the book AlphaPussy by Gina Gershon. It's a mistake that it took a while for me to get off the images of everything that was on AlphaPussy before I got to the book cover. It's just a problem that I have. But anyway, the book is great, and we love talking to Gina, is what I'm trying to get to.
So if you're going to Google it, you want to either Google Gina Gershon, AlphaPussy, or AlphaPussy, How I Survived the Valley and Learned to Love My Boobs.
All right. Yes, but again, you're putting in those words, so just hang on tight when you press enter, because those images might be something that you're not expecting, which was to my delight and horror. Or horror and delight? Maybe I should say it in horror, which I don't know. Either way, it's bad. But
I brought up feelings.
It brought up feelings, yes, much like the AlphaPussy book, Gina Gershon, and much for you as well. Brought out some feelings, huh?
It absolutely did. Hear my Jewish mom? It absolutely did. I could have talked to Gina for a much longer period of time, which I know I say for every guest. But yeah, she is admirable, and I guess we can call her the original AlphaPussy of our generation.
Okay.
Would you say that? Would you say that?
Sure. She has a published book about it, so it's true.
Oh, and I didn't even get to mention this to her, but when she was talking about back in her Valley years, when she was in elementary school, she mentioned the game Socko. Do you remember Socko?
Oh, yeah. Of course. It was, it was dodgeball, basically. It was same thing as dodgeball.
Yes, dodgeball is harsh. I always found that the concept of dodgeball harsh, but for some reason, Socko seems like even harder. And my friends and I, my elementary school friends, we still talk about Socko. So I guess it really did have an impact on all of us.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just a Valley term, because most people know it as dodgeball. Good time. So, we went down the Ventura Boulevard for a little bit of time with Gina. That's nice. Maybe that'll be our road trip podcast. We'll get Gina into a car and drive down Ventura Boulevard and get her feelings on what's going on, as we do as well. Taking a driving down Ventura Boulevard like Tom Petty. We had a wonderful chat with Gina. I recommend this book. It's called AlphaPussy, and it's available everywhere. You learn that she learned at an early age to stand up for herself. It's some valuable lessons in this book, and it took her to wonderful places. It's
definitely a great read. And thank you to Holly Watson of Holly Watson PR for hooking us up with Gina.
Yeah, she's very patient with us. It took us a while to rope in Gina, but it was certainly worth it. So thank you, Holly Watson. Thank you, Holly Cantos, as always, for being a lovely host on the podcast.
Why, thank you, Dave Sloan. Thank you to you as well. It's delightful.
Always a delight. We do this delightful podcast every Friday, so please subscribe. You can find us on our website, wddimpodcast.com, which stands for What Difference Does It Make Podcast.com. And you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. Where else can they find things about us, Holly?
You can also now find us on Substack. You can find us there, so join us, and all over social media at WDDIM Podcast and on YouTube, where you will find clips of this interview with Gina at What Difference Does It Make Podcast.
Wonderful. All right. If this is your first time listening, I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. Give us a comment. We love comments. That is our podcast for today. New episodes every Friday. So until next week, this is Dave.
This is Holly.
Check you later.
Over and out.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.